I'm Kathy with K radio broadcaster. I'm speaking with Gabby Gouveia, letgrayson.org. One of the messages that you had shared during your share about your son Grayson was seeing hearts everywhere and the symbolism. And because I follow online, I've been noticing that quite a bit. And actually leading up to us getting together on Zoom, when did the hearts begin? Was it before Grayson had passed away, or?
Definitely after. And I think at first it's hard to recognize. I mean, you're not really aware or in that space where you're, the veil is thin, meaning that you feel really connected to heaven. I think after Grayson died, I really wanted that, and I was seeking that, and I know that he was on the other end of spirit and wanting to communicate back. But I feel like we've got to be ready and in the right headspace to receive that. And I remember starting to see hearts in like rock walls or walking by something and thinking like, that's weird. I've been seeing hearts, and it sort of just occurs to you. I think that once you can recognize an angel sign, maybe Grayson has sent that similar signs over and over again because he knows, mommy's paying attention and she will be able to see this. And it's sort of grown since then with like repeating numbers. It's so interesting because I'll drive to work and I'll be behind a car that has a license plate, it's got 888, and then somebody else will drive through and it'll catch me off guard because I'm not looking for it. Sort of just a friendly hello and a reminder to keep going, and I love you, and I'm always here with you. And those kind of like affirmations are things I think for me and for probably most humans that we need like every day to keep focused on what's important, and there's so many gifts that he's brought and things that I've learned from him. So to just sort of like reset and to just be encouraged and loved and reminded that we're together in a new way, that we're still continuing on our relationship, which gives me comfort.
How old was Grayson when he passed away?
He was 5. He would have turned 6 in 2 months.
How Grayson being in your lives and all the lives he touched, he helped to accelerate the understanding of what a relationship and what love could be. And it really amplified because you knew that there was a deadline, doctors and nurses and people around you were preparing you, but no one prepared you more so than Grayson himself, as you and your husband would talk about it. Let's go back. Let's find out how Grayson was first introduced to your lives, I guess. What the family unit was before Grayson, and what was it like during the years that Grayson was alive and here?
Yeah. Well, he's our firstborn. So Ka'eo and I actually had some difficulty having a baby. It took us about 1.5 years, and we had a early miscarriage also before him. What's interesting is before all of our children, we've experienced miscarriage or Grayson's death prior to another child. But we wanted him so much. We got married and we always wanted kids, and it was hard for us. So when he came, we were overjoyed and so grateful. Thought he was like the greatest thing ever. I think once you've like been established in your career, and we got to travel and do other things as individuals and as a couple, that your heart's so ready for a child, and you're in that space. And so he was pure joy, and we just thought he was like a little perfect baby genius. We used to call him PBG on the side so no one else would know that we were calling him that. But he was articulate when he spoke, once he started speaking, and he was so loving and sweet, and goofy and fun. He was really a joy. And for some reason, like, he didn't write on the walls. And I mean, he still got into trouble and was mischievous and did things, but he wasn't, you know, once we had the girls, we were like, oh, okay, like, you know, he was sweet, and he was loving, and he cared about people, and he was endearing. And even at his service, the director of the preschool that he was at had shared, if he had a superpower, it'd be love. And it just seems like he carried that throughout his life, and now beyond through us. So yeah.
What happened that when I spoke with you and your husband a year, 2 years ago, and you shared your story about let Grayson, because of Grayson's death, that energy had to go somewhere. And creating this organization to help or guide or outline or assist and support and encourage other families who experience loss, you know. Parents, they say, should never outlive their children, but it happens. What brought everything together to honor Grayson that way?
I think it started once he got diagnosed with cancer. So he was having trouble keeping his slipper on, and he was vomiting, and we were taking him to the pediatrician. And it's a rare thing to have a brain tumor. My background is an ICU nurse, so I was able to kind of like share with the doctor some things that I was seeing in him. We got an X-ray, CAT scan, showed his brain had a brain tumor. And you know, I can't really explain to anybody or here in the short amount of time that we have, like the experience of witnessing your child move through cancer and that journey, all of the procedures. You're living every second. There's no pause button. You're witnessing the medication, the surgeries, the kidney stones, the vomiting, the side effects, all these things that you move through when you're battling cancer. What was so amazing was to witness Grayson take this kind of pain and adversity and witness how he held it. And it didn't really occur to me until maybe years later of moving through my grief and looking at things. But I witnessed his like spiritual awakening, that he took all of this pain and was able to still choose love and to try to comfort us in a way that we could have some attempt at peace in such a difficult, painful experience. That was like life-changing, to be able to witness my child who now I feel is like a mentor, and maybe even the parent. And I think in the spirit side, we play roles on earth, but that maybe his soul was definitely the advanced one that was coming to bear gifts to our family in this lifetime, and that he understood his purpose and what he was here to do, maybe even on a subconscious level, and not that he knew this as a 5-year-old child, but that he would, especially at the end, like the last 2 weeks before he died, he definitely was saying profound things that you would never expect from a child. And I think that he had moved through all of this experience and kept trying to seek out a good way to continue to choose love. I mean, he was still normal and he didn't want to take his meds, and he still had, but there was something about him that was different. At the end, even wanted us to know, you know, I'm okay, and you know, I love you so much. There was just a moment where, you know, at that point there was nothing else to say besides we love you. And that, you know, his last words were like, I love you so much, don't worry. And I think he wanted us to believe that there could be life beyond this tragic moment, that this loss. I think he wanted us to believe that we could also live our lives with this authentic power that he possessed, to just go for it and not worry so much about all these earthly things and what people think, but that we can really, all of us as human beings, just really try our best to show up with what we got. Even as a 5-year-old child with cancer, he could still show up and focus on our family. And we could, like, you know, imagine we're on the cruise ship ordering room service when we were in the hospital. We'd be together and, you know, laugh about something, or tease one of the nurses or somebody and shoot the fart gun, and we could still laugh and have all of these moments that were, you know, kind of normal and fun, and that we could still feel the connection between each other. And he really just led the way. He just really was the one to say, you know, like, watch me, I guess, without saying that. You know, I'll lead, and I'll be the example, in a reverse role kind of thing. And over time, moving through my grief and sitting with the pain and going through so much therapy and figuring out all these ways that I could hold this pain, he's slowly showing me how, okay, you don't have to be rid of all of this pain, but also, you know, hold it together with the other stuff. And I think that's such a huge, big lesson, because I think we all want positive experiences, and we think happiness is just that, and that the bad things in life, would just try and get over it as fast as we can and shove it somewhere else. But I think the truth is that if we are present and here for our pain and all these things that are happening, and especially now with COVID and Black Lives Matter and all of these things that are coming up, that we can recognize that universally all together as experiencing this pandemic and these crises that are happening, that we got to figure out how to hold all of it, and then also still shine our light and be who we were created to be, and who we're meant to be, and who we can be in our true purpose. And all of that just comes like one itty bitty step at a time. You know, it could be like drinking my green smoothie this morning, or trying to take a run when I'm just so stressed and can't do the kids and the cleaning and the house and the COVID at work and on my day job and all those things. So, you know, it's such a blessing to continue to receive all these gifts from Grayson. And I think if I were to only focus on how painful and how sad it is to lose your child, and to go through that and witness him suffer through cancer, that I would be missing out on living. And I know Grayson wants me to absolutely live as fully as I can. Yeah.
You were talking about how his life was so short, and how he was able to be this kind of like Buddha, you know, very Zen about his illness. And for adults, we keep on relearning and learning these different lessons. And so we create and we dispose of different kinds of baggage, or they're relabeled certain ways. And for children that I've met through the years, because of Kapi'olani Medical Center for Women and Children, they've had this really good, optimistic, self-reliant kind of attitude about various illnesses and having to be in the hospital and the various treatments. And I think part of it is because that's all they know. You know, being so young, they haven't had that life experience of like an other. And so coming out of it, it's just, they're ever grateful, and they want to give back, because they're like, oh, it can be pain-free or less pain, or, you know, fill in the blanks. And when you talk of Grayson, the wonderment, like just being so happy just to be with mom and dad and to see you guys light up when, you know, I mean, isn't that the best feeling, entering a room and seeing somebody light up? And so he's just like exchanging that energy with you and his dad, you know, and that carried on to after his passing. In his memory, Let Grace In, which I think is just like, how was it like that obvious to name this group Let Grayson, you know? It's just like, mic drop. That's really good. That's really, you know.
Well, everything's heaven sent with Let
Yeah.
Grayson. And the name actually came through, Joshua Almanza was the chaplain at the time at Kapiolani Hospital. And we had gone to high school together. He was a year younger than me at Marino. And we, you know, had that relationship before, but he was with us and he walked with us and he prayed for us, and their family made sure that Olivia, our kids were going to the same preschool too. And so they would, you know, take Olivia and have her for a play date so she wouldn't be stuck in the hospital where we were in, you know, just the one room where Grayson was admitted. And they would go to Costco runs and do things. And we were chatting in the parking lot one day and Josh was like, let Grace in. And it's sort of one of those things. And also, the whole idea about Let Grace In is to allow this unmerited love, like this, let some stranger or other families who have been through love on you, let us hold you up in a space as best we can. Let us witness you. We're not here to fix you, like, so that you can do whatever work it is that you've come to do. Let us just put our arms around you and hold you in a loving space so that you feel safe to go there, you know, and to see what it is that you're longing for and that you're needing, or whatever it is that you've come for at retreat or to one of our events or on a Zoom call now. So yeah, what a blessing. Everything, the team, everything that's happened with Let Grace In, 100% from heaven. Grayson,
it's non-denominational also, right? It's not like,
yes.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, it's hard because we actually are Christian and we use words that we use, but you know, the God we know is not, it's for everyone. This is love and compassion in a way that we know how to give it. But spiritual, yes, like I think that there's a million ways to have that, receive that, to know that, and it's personal. It's like an individual thing, and this is for everyone and for anyone, absolutely. But my personal belief is that Grayson continues on in spirit, and that energy just moves into different places. So now he's not visible but in spirit, and that his energy has converted into something I don't even actually understand, which is why I think that's the great thing about not knowing. It's a mystery. And we do the best we can as humans with words that we have to do that. But yes, that's for everyone. And we have a variety of things, you know, Buddhist meditation, we have healing touch, you know, there's prayer if you want it. We have la'au lapa'au, and that traditional Hawaiian green medicine also believes that spirit is part of the healing of the whole self, that you can't physically overcome your body's ailments without pule or prayer or whatever that means to you. But you know, a lot of the words have been used and abused, and people have a bad taste in their mouth about certain things to varying degrees. And so we have these conversations with our team too. But yes, for everyone, and whatever the source of love is for you, that is what we acknowledge.
I was just thinking, where did Grayson's name come from? Was he named after someone? How did the name come into your understanding when you saw him, you know?
Yeah, that story is just more of a practical one, that we really like the name. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
when you're choosing as husband and wife a name, there's a short list that you both agree on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that just felt good to us and nice, and we hadn't known a lot of other Graysons. um and and yeah, we just felt that that was something that we both liked.
How has letgrayson.org, working with families, your own family dynamic, impacted your day job? And I say day job very loosely because you, as in the field, the medical field and healthcare as a nurse, it's night, day, you know, no matter your seniority, especially now, you go wherever you need to be, where it's you're most needed. How has that impacted your approach? Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
Showing up, yeah, I think for sure Grayson has changed. So I took some time off because as an ICU nurse, there's a lot of death and dying, and I wasn't sure how I was ready to be there at that time. So I
Mm-hmm.
took off some time, and I had Charlie, which was another miracle blessing. So she's 3 now. And so I had a newborn, and I was doing working through my grief as my job. And I think that that made a big difference. I don't think a lot of people have that luxury to be able to just like make that your work.
Mm-hmm.
But I understood that because I had that opportunity, that I was meant to take it seriously and focus, you know, really on and do everything, just say yes to everything that was
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, everything that I felt like maybe could help or not, just try everything and do everything. And I think that that's helped with that Grayson, because I've tried all kinds of different things and kind of went in all different directions. Um and and that my nursing career, when I came back, I kind of was still kind of doing a little bit of ICU, but trying out different spaces. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm working mostly all of my hours now in a cardiac cath lab unit, in a
Wow.
recovery unit. So we prep and recover patients. But unlike the ICU, where most of our patients are sedated and very sick, these patients can come in and get their procedure and oftentimes go home.
Mm.
And the conversations that I've had with these patients who are mostly elderly and have problems with their heart, um, have been like so meaningful and connecting. And I feel new in my purpose with nursing.
Oh,
I
wow.
think Grayson has like changed so much that I realize how I can take a new version or a different version of myself with all of my experiences into a new version and relationship and compassion and care for my patients. And I find it fascinating, um, talking to them and connecting with them. And I feel like because they're older and they're somewhat sick, they've got things going on, that they're already contemplating and thinking about a lot of these things when maybe your time may be coming soon.
Mm.
And so we have a lot of things to chat about, and they're wise and they've been thinking about it and have a lot of life experience. And a lot of times it's like this. I mean, it's hard to even explain and sounds crazy, but like we love each other as
Oh, yeah.
people. Like we get in this space where we're like sharing and you know, we're prepping and getting ready and doing these things, but having these conversations where we're just really connected. And I feel like I have a different relationship with my patients, and
Mm.
that they they can feel Grayson and all of the things that he's been teaching me, and I can care for them as a whole person. and not just for in their physical body. And that really brings me a lot of joy. I feel differently about nursing because of that. And I've always loved my job, and I've always felt good about that, but it wasn't quite the same. And so Grayson's changed that for me. And that to me has been such an eye-opening, significant thing to realize. Like, you know, we can be doing anything. We didn't have to start a nonprofit and help families who've lost a child. I didn't have to do something specifically related to that, but I could take my existing job and find meaning and purpose in exactly where I am, or with my coworkers, you know, in relationships where you love people differently and see them differently and have more bandwidth for compassion and space to hold all kinds of other things. So that's been really cool. Yeah.
That's wild. That vulnerability for
Yes.
your patients that you're currently working with being older. Have they been able to see, and that just goes into another stream of philosophical understanding, because of that question mark. Everybody understands when you're checked into a hospital, it's serious. You know, your health, there's something very serious that needs to get fixed. And being able to feel that trust and that bond with you, or like with all the nurses, you know, that must, yeah. I've been, like, knock on wood, I've had relatively good health. When I was a kid, I was in, like, the hospital for things, but as I've gotten older, it's just been, I don't feel 100%. I go to the doctor. I'm just like, I don't want to experience anything off kilter.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, I'm thinking it's not that there isn't anything else that I want to talk to you about, but it's just like, I would just be just chatting with you now at this point, because what you're covering is just, because we covered your day job, you covered family like Grayson. But I think too, what I like is when I think about people that we don't have anymore, like every so often I think of my grandmother. And because I had her for such a long time, and there are other people who are still alive who knew her, like my mom's still alive. So, you know, we can talk about her. So when I'm thinking about, like, with Grayson, and because that's new, and there's no rule book. There's no rule book when somebody dies, as far as continuing to keep their memory or their life alive during your lifetime, or during your child, you know, your other children's lifetimes and things like that. There's no right or wrong way to do it.
The big vision is to have a retreat center. So it always was. It always was to have a space. And in Hawaii, there's so many beautiful places. You know, and there's hiking trails and the beach and the sun, and that in itself is so healing and so powerful, and you don't have to say a word. You could just walk through nature. I did so much hiking that first year, especially after Grayson died, and it was so healing for me, and that physical walking sheds grief, and that connection to nature and sun sheds grief, and that being in awe of this world, if you really step back and take a look and breathe in the ocean and the sun and the air, and look at these beautiful trees, and we are surrounded by just a gorgeous landscape, and that always was the idea. Like, wow, we're so lucky to live here. If we could build a space, or have a space, or inherit a space, or borrow a space, or be with someone else in a space where families could come and be together. And sometimes we call it the farm, and there could be chickens and a garden, and for sure a memorial garden and space to do and perform these rituals of, you know, coming, painting rocks, maybe having their names there, like all these things that grieving people do to find comfort. Maybe we can cook their favorite meals, or, you know, bring their clothing and, you know, repurpose into a Christmas ornament. Like, I mean, unlimited ideas. Continue the la'au we're doing, the meditation that we're doing, the art therapist that's with us, group support, so that there's many different ways and people can connect with hopefully at least just one way of something. Whether it just be being in nature or digging in the dirt and caring for plants, painting a rock, doing anything. 100% for sure, bigger visions for things to come, and also surrendered to all possibilities, you know, and allowing Grayson to speak into that, for that source of love that we were talking about earlier, to speak into that. What does that look like? And the team that he's helped us build is evident of, you know, tapping into that knowing of who's right, what how does that work, like meeting someone and bringing them into the picture and then allowing them to be who they were made to be. It's like all the parts of the body, you know. So we'll collect the eyes and the nose and the mouth and the arms, and none of us can do as well separately as we can together. And that same idea of teaming up and linking arms within our community, from all of the beautiful, amazing healers and people who are restoring themselves and others around them, including our families. And so part of it too is the giving back is also healing for me and for our family. And so I feel that would be the same for others too. And so as families come through and go to retreat and connect and heal, that new families that come in will absolutely want to see families further out than them. Families that have, you know, figured out some way and can share some kind of knowledge or comfort or lend an ear to what it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 years down the line. Yeah.
I guess the other thing is, I don't know if you're comfortable in your own opinion, maybe to suggest with COVID-19 right now, everybody is in different phases and levels of isolation, and everybody has their way of dealing with being alone. And sometimes that being alone turns into that loneliness. And so some people, where the grieving, it might have been 10 years, it might have been as recent as this year. There's no time frame. There's, you know, there's no right or wrong to how one experiences the waves of loss. Is there any, are there any materials or ways that have helped you and other families that you could just kind of broadly suggest for people who may be dealing with, if maybe not a loss of a loved one, loss of job or residence? You know, I mean, loss is, it's so abstract now that is there any kind of insight that maybe you could, that's helped?
You know, and that's a good point, that grief is loss and death, and we know that, but also you grieve losses, all kinds of losses. And even with the loss of a person in your life, you still have all of these other kinds of losses. You know, when Grayson died, like, we no longer really were connected to his friends as much because we weren't, you know, still going to school, or the connections we made at Kapiolani, they became family, they cared for us so much. You kind of grieve that disconnection because there's no reason to go back to the hospital anymore. But in the same way, like with COVID, you know, that's right, we are experiencing separateness in a new way, and this was unimaginable, right? A pandemic like this, and everything that's changed. I think the short answer is, when you think about it for yourself, there are things that you feel like you can do. And so I think that you already know in your heart, like, the things that really do make you feel better. But choosing, positive coping mechanisms are always, favorable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could do whatever you want and go through the path. But I think that if you even take something small and get some physical exercise, or um, whatever's easy for you. If it's easy for you to eat healthier, if it's easier for you to exercise, if it's easier for you to just have a timer on, and 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 just be quiet, or try a new meditation app internally, what works for us. So whatever we can do, whether it's call a friend, whether it's join a Facebook group, whether it's um, do some meditation, find a new app. Like, even my kids, I have them on this app where they listen to Bulldog, and he goes to sleep, or he goes to the moon and sends kind
Oh.
wishes to other people who are sad, and the planet blue turns bright red, and they're full of love when the spaceship leaves. There's the meditation where it says they're on a boat, and they're going through all these different waves which signify your emotion, trying to find your quiet place, what that feels like. I think when I first tried meditation, it's the same thing. Like, what does that mean, and what do you do? Or even just focusing on your breath, but even that might be hard. So maybe even just taking 1 minute, maybe just taking 5 deep breaths, maybe just figuring out what podcast might speak to you, um, and find somebody who's talking about hope, or um, their story, or sharing something that interests you. I think um, you know joining a virtual support group, we've done that. I think figuring out how to expand that support, or reaching out to people who you already trust, or go digging in your garden. Like, during COVID, I started making hakules, and I went in my backyard and I picked a bunch of flowers
Yeah.
and a bunch of leaves, and I watched people on YouTube, and I watched people like Meliana on Instagram doing these things and showing videos, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And that was like a creative outlet for me. I used to paint and have time to do more, but that was something that sort of came to me at that time. Now there's a million things to do. I mean, our hiking trails are closed, but when those things are open, or getting into the ocean, and just having some space to feel, cry. I think saying yes to the emotions that come, and not being afraid to break down, or be angry, or scream in the pillow, or whatever you gotta do, punch a punching bag, or I mean, there's a million things. I think whatever it is for you. And I
Yeah.
think men and women are different. I think that children are different. I think we all need different things. But in this really separated space, I think even our team zooming with each other every week was huge relief, and that we all could support each other in different ways that the nuclear family living together can't. I think that when you're in a grieving space, a grieving family, or you're both grieving your jobs or loss, that it's hard for you to be supporting each other. So you have to look beyond what's here. And it's nothing, against anyone, but if you're both kind of going through that, you have a bandwidth that's much shorter to listen, and to acknowledge, and to affirm in the other, whatever space, whatever it looks like. There's a ton of different things, and on our website we have some resources, and also, of course, grieving families who'd want to join us via Zoom. We're having a La'au Lapa'au virtual event where we're making Aloy hand sanitizer with our Kumu Kodi. He's hilarious. He has a fantastic core. He oozes love. He is the best pigeon speaker I know. He is a comedian on the side, and he does this green medicine, and he's so in his purpose when he's doing it that you just can't help but just feel connected and with everybody doing it. So yeah, I think that there are a lot of things, reading a book, and anything actually that you can do that helps you feel better. If you ask yourself, what are the things that actually work? What are the things that are making me feel better? Is it cooking every night for my family? Is it, you know, making a hakule? Is it taking deep breaths? And the more you can practice and add things to that self-care toolkit, I think the better off we'll all be and feel.
That's perfect. And I reset the timer because it was close to 40 and it just went over. So.
Oh, okay. I'm good. Did you hear the UPS guy trying to say hello, hello, and knocking on our gate? Did you hear him or no?
I've been hearing birds in the background.
Oh, I've been trying to, I was trying to open up the garage door for him so he could go downstairs and give it to my mother-in-law, but he gave up and drove away.
Oh.
But we were kind of right in the middle of talking, so I didn't want to say, hold on, and run to the door.
Uno momento. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna make little segments. Yeah. But I'm still recording. I'm just like recording. But that I want to end it right there. How do you feel? Do you feel good that you were able to share? Was there definitely anything that you anything before today that you were like, I would like to make sure that I touch upon this?
No, I kind of just always leave it open to spirit and allow like whatever is supposed to be talked about and meant to come up. And all of these like opportunities to share my story and to be with other people in this way, I feel like is another opportunity for me to learn and share and be and you know, try and just have the courage to show up and figure out how I can be of service in different ways, or you know, whatever it is. I hope that at some point somebody connects. You know, it's like my patients asking me about how many children do you have leads into this whole other conversation. That, you know, it's a simple, easy question that most people ask each other, and in small talk that ends up connecting us in ways that are just much bigger and greater and deeper and more meaningful than we had thought. And so I think in the same way, I love just like connecting and chatting with you and being able to just let it go however it's meant to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a billion things that we could talk about, but
I like human beings, and I'm just
like
the odds are that, especially with the news, that there aren't a lot of good human beings out there. So when I do meet people who are like, well, they're doing good just by being, it's not doing like some people, it's like extraordinary that you've carved time. You're making tremendous love space for people who otherwise feel that they're in this vacuum, this black hole, that there is nothing, because how can you fill it? And it's just like, oh no, we're not trying to fill it. We're just helping you recognize that what you think is lost is there, but it's in another form. And so we can help you kind of find that. And there's pain and tears, and there's also laughter, and you're never replacing that. It's just recognizing it. It's a shapeshifter. That grief is a shapeshifter. And so so that's what you're doing. So to me, that's like, it's part of your normal. No, you would do it. It's just like, I wouldn't do that.
We're trying to survive. We're trying to survive. You should see my house. They got laundry, and I'm doing all the same things as everybody else. I am stressed about what's for dinner, was my bathroom
Yeah.
clean,
And you're
like
not trying to
all
be
of the,
perfect either. I think, and that's what's
absolutely not.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
hope that nobody ever, ever, ever thinks that, or that I don't ever uh try or that's never, constant work in progress,
Hashtag.
absolutely, for the rest of my life, forever. But I have done hard work,
Hmm.
and now I know that I can say to myself, yes, you can do hard things, and you can be proud that you are doing hard things, and that you can, I can at least love myself in that way and say, you know what, you didn't get here because you laid down and surrender in a bad way, where you just laid down and checked out.
Mm.
I think it's harder to show up and to try to love still in that space when you
Yeah.
are so broken and so stripped down and so vulnerable and so bare, and it's easier, you're much closer to, let me just check out completely. And I think that it's super common for families and parents who've lost a child to say, I'm going to just go join them. And when you
Mm.
know what that feels like,
Yeah.
when you've been there where you're like, life is way too painful to live, you, if you're not there anymore, then for me, I just feel like maybe I can just share with somebody else, like, you can laugh again, you can feel again, and you can be a loving mother, and and Grayson and our children will be more happy that we're living fully in that, and that they want that for us wherever they are, and that when we reunite, if that's what you believe, that I'm hoping that Grayson's like, yeah, mom, high five, like, you went to earth and you did that, and you tried, you showed up, you're not perfect, there's a lot of mistakes in between, but my god, you showed up for
Hmm.
something, and I think everybody can relate to that. Everybody's got pain.
Hmm.
This is just my story and my wake up call, but I think that, right, I mean, what else are we here for? Now that I'm where I am now, I feel like, I didn't realize, but you're not in that place in your life. Everybody's in a different spot,
Yeah.
and people who may not understand now may in 5 years or 1 year or something, or after this pandemic or whatever it is. And we just keep showing up and try to do what we're meant to do. And if let Grayson for some reason never, you know, you know, stays this tiny, or has to, heaven forbid, one day stop giving services, like, it's still worth it. No love is ever lost. All of that is still definitely all worth it.